This is the last milestone build of Windows 7 available to the public. What are the differences between Windows Vista and what does it foreshadow about Windows 7? Well, let's check it out. The setup process sports the new background, which doesn't make it to the final version. But it looks incredible anyway. After the initial setup process finished, this build shows the new boot screen that adds the starting Windows text and changing the progress bar to look more stylish. The out-of-the-box experience is pretty much the same as in Windows Vista. Rebooting the OS, the Windows or startup is still there from Windows Vista. And the logon screen background has been changed. It gives the look of, well, angelic, blessing type of vibe. Yeah, I know, it's silly. But anyway, entering the desktop, it's still heavily similar to Windows Vista. Well, why? We'll get to that later on. The first thing I want to see is the start menu. And yeah, the transparency is off the charts. Now, opening Windows Explorer from the start menu, and we're up to some visible changes to the application. Well, first of all, the command bar is now in light blue. Icons in it are gone, and 3 options are moved to the right side: Views, Preview pane, and Help. Second, the navigation pane is no longer separate. User folders and directory view are now combined. This makes libraries, basically a new user folder system introduced in Windows 7, more prominent. Lastly, this is what I like in Windows 7 starting Windows build. Maximized window now has transparent title bar. I hate it when it wasn't in Windows Vista. Going down to the taskbar, collapsed icon trays are now compiled into one box, rather than expanding it in the taskbar. You can choose which one to hide or show depending on your need. And look what's on the right? Yeah, the Show Desktop button, first introduced in Windows 98 build 1400. Now finally there, no longer in limbo. The button does what it's supposed to, well, show the desktop when you have any window open. Since we are moving on to Windows 7, the option to have the classic start menu is no longer available. I don't know why, it's Microsoft's decision. Moving right along. Several system applications have been updated. Calculator has this weird layout where recent calculations are displayed. Not only that, you can change the calculation on the fly. I was like, how is this really not a thing in Windows? Well, my guess that it's for simplicity. I disagree. This recent calculation is present across all calculator modes. As you know, Paint and WordPad now has the ribbon interface taken from Microsoft Office. This makes both applications feel modern and polished. Even in Windows 11, the ribbon interface is there, intact. Looking at the WinVer, the Windows logo and word mark is now transparent. No opaque background, and the RAM size text below was also removed. Now, how many of you know Windows Easy Transfer? Well, my guess is not many of you. This is an application to migrate your user account and its data to another computer. It was later removed in Windows 10. Compared to Vista, the interface is really different. No longer full screen, and it's tidier. Windows Media Player also got the newer interface, specifically the light blue color scheme. Moving to control panel first, the category view is de facto default view. Even more so that there's a description now to adjust your computer's settings and what you should do inside. The left pane has the blue Aurora background. And if you want to go back to classic view, you can go to all control panel items. The display applet introduced to replace desktop properties related to screen resolution, scaling, and multiple display management. troubleshooting applet to solve basic problems in Windows, recovery to house system restore and PC reset, Windows Solution Center, later renamed to Action Center, ClearType text tuner for text display adjustment, and Fonts applet, previously found exclusively in the Fonts folder within the Windows folder. On the desktop, we have Send Feedback for internal feedback and reports about the build. To send feedback, oh yeah, we need a product key. Well, I don't have it, so screw it. And hey, I can still submit feedback with various topics and input to the development team. Welcome Center is now getting started. It no longer has categories inside, as the Windows Live shortcuts and options were simplified to just one option. Yes, this means that Messenger, Movie Maker, and other live applications are no longer bundled. Anyway, the descriptions are still in work in progress, but the options are functional as intended. I know many of you are already familiar with this. Sidebar is now revamped as Gadgets, or more accurately, Desktop Gadgets Gallery. You can add gadgets to anywhere in your desktop. Yeah, really. But remember that this is a development build. Once you snap it to the right, you sometimes can't drag it out. Back to system applications, on-screen keyboard is now similar to what's in Windows 7. Windows Media Center no longer maximized by default and starting to look more like its Windows 7 version. Math input panel, XPS viewer, photo gallery, now photo viewer, and Internet Explorer 8. Starting with this build, Windows plus P shortcut is the way to customize your projection if you have multiple monitors. And to have a bit of fun, I'll throw in the Flip 3D. Now, on to the million-dollar question. Why does it look so similar to Vista on the surface? Well, because Microsoft gatekeeps the real new stuff from you. To force the OS to display the new stuff, you need to have Blue Pill. No, not that Blue Pill, but this Blue Pill. A tool to unlock features gatekept by Microsoft. With Blue Pill, we can see some more changes. As you can see, the taskbar is now more similar to Windows 7, even though there is a gap between each application for jump list. You can now shake your active window to minimize all other applications, and desktop backgrounds can now do slideshow. From this build, there are several features that did make it to Windows 7, and we're really used to it, but some of them aren't. But hey, it's development in a nutshell. Functions come and go. Windows 7 is just one of them.